everybody, and welcome to Teague's Take. I am George Teague. I'll be your host today, along with JT Consuela, and we have a special guest in Mario Morris, my college roommate, now working in the college ranks as an athletic director. Man, we got a great show lined up for you this evening. We got to talk about this name, image, and likeness stuff again because it's super important, especially when we have guests like Mario who can come in and talk about that. And then we got some other stuff later in the show, so make sure you stay tuned in. We got to talk about baseball, the no hitters. And we got high school kids starting to opt out, man. Is that going to be a phenomenon? But let's go ahead and get to my run out right now so we can dive into this. Name, image, and likeness. Man, one of the things that really intrigues me about this, and I don't know if it's because I'm so involved in it from the high school perspective, college perspective, or the pros perspective. I know that I have a lot of jerseys that have been sold, cards, lithographs, paintings, bobbleheads, photos, and all these things I didn't get to capture when I was in high school. Definitely not when I was at Alabama. Then, of course, it kind of changed as you get a little bit older and you get to the National Football League. So the discussion that we really want to dive into today is how do schools actually handle this process? Because it can be very, very sticky. One of the things that I know is that whatever happens, right, we're going to have to protect these players so that as they begin to make money, not for just playing the game, but because of their image, we got to be able to protect them. There was a show earlier that we had actually talked about this on what I thought was the best way to kind of shell money, I guess, for players because, you're young like that, and if you run into, it doesn't matter if it's $1,000 or $100,000. Some of us can make some really, really bad decisions, right? We can have too many barbecues, uh, too many hot wings, buy a car too fast, give it away, lose it, or whatever it is. So that is a big concern for me, and I really am interested to see what the NCAA will do to try to help educate kids, athletes, when it comes to receiving money as this continues to grow. So I'm hoping to learn something tonight from someone who can really, really talk to us about this from the other side, from the financial side of colleges. And what do they think when you're an athletic director there and you may have to be cutting checks to players, or is that really what's going to happen? So I'll give my thoughts on that as we dive into this. I want to go ahead and bring in Consuela and JT right now, if we can, because I think this is really, really important, right? And we got a good friend with us today. You can go ahead and put him back up there. That's Mario Morris. Mario Morris is if you guys don't know, man, we go back so far. We've been roommates. We spent a lot of time together post-college as well. It's always good when you can still have relationships with former teammates and watch them grow and progress doing that. He was the starting linebacker for the University of Alabama in the national championship game. Went on to become, go in the financial world, landed his way up to Wisconsin to be an athletic director with the Badgers, and now he's at Notre Dame as a deputy AD. Make sure I say that right on what he is with that. So it's great to have you on the show, Mario. I know Consuela's happy to see you. JT, I don't know when the last time you saw Mario.
When Alabama played Wisconsin. And Arlington.
Yeah, thank you for those tickets. I think Alabama won that game too. I'm not really sure.
I remember it being a beatdown too.
So Mario, let's really dive into this name, image, and likeness stuff. So you wrote an article on this, and can you just give us a little bit more about where this is headed from your perspective?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say it's great to be with you. Good to see you again, GT, Consuela, JT, and just so happy for your show. This name, image, and likeness is a little bit of a mess right now, and we've been trying to figure this out for a few years, and it's all come to a head right now. So July 1st, student athletes will be able to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. And sort of how they do that will depend upon a few different things. I think that many states have already passed name, image, and likeness laws. And I think 5 or 6 of them are scheduled to go into effect on July 1st. The NCAA is meeting here a few times in June, potentially to pass some name, image, and likeness regulations themselves. And then Congress, the Senate and the House, are also looking at name, image, and likeness legislation. And so it's a little bit of a mess right now. And we're trying to prepare for it based off of the proposed NCAA legislation right now. And so we're building out our program to respond mainly to that. And so you're mainly looking at probably 4 different areas where student athletes are going to be able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. Sponsorships, traditional sponsorships is one area. Businesses, creating businesses is another area. And providing content or producing content, shows like this, producing after game shows, right? Instead of them giving the interviews to CBS or the Big Ten Network or NBC, they produce their own show. And then probably the one that's probably most immediate is social media. So leveraging their social media and their brand, increasing their followers, and able to monetize their name, image, and likeness. And so those are the 4 main areas where we see them potentially, profiting off of their name, image, and likeness. And right now we're just, we don't know exactly what the rules will be. We have a good idea, but we'll be ready once July 1st hits to respond to this and provide that opportunity for our student athletes.
Okay. Well, that's good. And we'll make sure he can hear us. He said he might be having a little bit of problem with hearing our volume as well. But Mario, you hit on a lot of things right there that I didn't even think about, with sponsorship and business. I was really just thinking of, all the other things that I had mentioned that are hard elements, jerseys, pictures, things of that nature. But so how will so the money will be, are you saying that it will basically won't be a violation if they make money from doing podcasts and all that, and that they won't necessarily make money specifically from the university, but they'll have opportunities to earn an income where we used to could not earn income through other things? Is that basically what I'm hearing you say? That
Yeah, so basically the red line is we're not going to pay them, right, from university funds. We're not going to share revenue. Now, there is some legislation being proposed in Congress that would require schools to share their revenues, but right now what we're focused on is allowing them to do what every other student can do. And so you got it right. So it's allowing them to go out and earn money, not the school paying them directly.
So the UCF kicker can have his YouTube channel back.
One more time, JT.
I said, so the UCF kicker from, 4 years ago can have his YouTube channel back without being deemed ineligible.
Right, absolutely. And you're seeing all these sort of all of the things that student athletes, they used to be violations. They won't be violations anymore. They'll be free to act and earn money.
Wow, that's, I don't know. I guess that's good, right? Don't you guys think that that's a good thing? Yeah. I don't see. I don't know the way guys are branding themselves now and really marketing themselves via social media and things of that nature. If you can, I don't know. I guess my next question would be, because I've heard that, with these podcasts and different things, that a lot of coaches don't even want the kids to be involved with some of these things.
Yeah, because it's such a fine line when you're giving kids the opportunity to actually have freedom of speech. A lot of times they're not ready to actually say things in the proper light or the proper way.
So that brings up. So how do you feel, Mario? Do you think that there has to be coaching, additional coaching? I'm talking about marketing coaches, speech coaches, to make sure that if they are doing podcasts, that they aren't giving out information or leading to things that can lead to bets. If someone's hurt and things of that nature, how are we going to deal with the players not saying things that affect Vegas?
Right.
I guess before you give your answer, does the name, image, and likeness things, does that open the door to that now? I mean, can't a player just fire off a tweet saying so-and-so's hurt and achieve the same thing?
I would say so. I just think that when you're on I don't know, I'm just thinking about this podcast stuff, the way that they talk, and I guess you can get swindled at any point in time, but you know how some people are, man. They get egotistical and they want to tell you stuff, and maybe he's a backup, or perhaps he's even mad or something. And Lord, I don't know. What do you think, Mario?
Yeah, could be a little bit of a Pandora's box. Like Consuelo said, right, they're going to have the right to be able to do this from a First Amendment standpoint. I think it's going to come down to coaching, in education. There's going to be a massive educational push on, to help our student athletes deal with this. And so someone asked me a question once about student athletes, similar to the podcast, doing their own show right after the game. And I think the traditional communications staff will now be helping the student athletes with regards to best practices, helping them, sort of deliver that message, right? Because we want to make sure that they still represent themselves, the university, their families in the right way. And so we're going to be educating them a lot, and it's going to be a lot, right? I mean, because there will be a lot of people from the outside, coming in and trying to, exploit the student athletes or help them make money. And we're going to have to be right there to help advise them.
Bro, man, Consuelo, JT, I don't know, but it sounds like you guys are going to have to hire a whole nother department of people to watch these kids, right, Consuelo?
Definitely, because I'm just thinking now I see a lot of transfers, a lot of student athletes getting upset and wanting to leave. And now you have to be careful of what they're going to say as they exit. This is going to be huge.
Well, yeah, because it's a little bit different than what I was thinking when you go into, again, to the image and likeness, JT. I was really just thinking of, tangible things, jerseys. That, hey, if you're a prominent player and you can sell some things, then that's one way to make some money. But this is a whole different.
Yeah, you can pretty much leverage yourself almost for another team or.
Well, that's happening now anyway.
Yeah, but on a very small scale.
No, not a very small scale.
No, but money changes the world,
They've gotten. There was a big article that was just released about like tampering and how like NCAA tampering has become on the scale of like the NBA recruiting guys that are already on the roster, improper benefits and things like that. I think that this name, image, and likeness stuff might be bringing some of the things to the forefront that we're concerned about, but I think those things have always been there. There's just the money was either under the table, Tennessee, Georgia.
No, that was in the bag.
Yeah, you're right. It was in the bag.
It's in the bag.
Or you had that scandal at Boston College. That gambling scandal from Boston College that went to the FBI. Basketball has got FBI investigations. I'm just kind of like, if you're 18, they can send you across the ocean to go kill people, then you should also be able to be trusted with a podcast.
Yeah, I guess so. I just worry about.
So you guys mentioned a couple of different things there. George, you say you might have to hire a whole new department. That is the fear, that this will become the new arms race within college athletics, right? Where we're hiring all of these, people to help them with increase their brand, their social media presence, advisors. And so that is one of the fears that we have. And so we don't want it to be that. And so we want to try to make sure that their opportunities align with what we allow other college students to do. And the more we can do that, I think the better. I think Consuela hit upon the transfer issue. So now you have the confluence of the new transfer rule, which allows them to transfer one time without penalty and name, image, and likeness. And you could have, student athletes thinking that the grass is greener, and you could have schools, saying, hey, you can make a lot more money over here. For those student athletes that may be facing a little bit of adversity or haven't lived up to expectations, easy thing to do is to transfer. And so that's something we're going to have to continue to monitor as well. I was talking to one of our coaches, and he said, and I asked him after the season, I said, you're going to take some time off. And he's like, no, I got to recruit. And I said, well, aren't you guys in a dead period? He's like, no, I got to recruit my own student athletes to make sure they're not in the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a whole new ball game, when it comes to coaching and really, helping these young men and women out.
So do you think that a college will then say, because you said, hey, maybe you can make more money over here, but do you think colleges will promote kids in a way where they can, say, hey, you got a big podcast, and
Absolutely.
my AI, Alabama, what's it called, .com is going to start promoting
why
somebody's kids
absolutely.
podcast, but they're not, I don't know.
Yeah, so there's a fine line on what services we can provide, but absolutely, I think that schools are going to say, here's some resources for you, and look at what quarterback A has done over here, right? Mm-hmm. You can come do that too, right? And that's the story they're going to tell. Look at the sponsorships that this running back got. You can do that too. And I read the same article that JT did, and so and tampering is going to be, it has been an issue. And it's going to continue to be an issue, as we move forward.
Man, I don't know.
It makes your head spin.
Yeah. So, last word, JT, on that before we move on to another topic.
No, I think I'll save it for our final play.
Okay. Well, then, what do you think? Does this, with this image and likeness stuff, and because I don't have a total understanding on this, so I'll tell you that I'm naive, I guess, with this, but how does this translate into the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens with these guys in image and likeness? Will this have something to do with it as well?
Then Mario can correct me on this. I would think the things that you would immediately assume would go into non-fungible tokens would be problematic, because then you're talking about a student athlete in uniform at a game, making some kind of play, and they don't own all the rights to those things, right? It's a CBA. It's a CBS broadcast or ABC or NBC or whatever. You got your school's logos on. It's all trademark. Then you start messing with. Now you're not talking about just your money. You're talking about other people's money.
Yeah,
and that might be a little problematic. But I can see NFTs coming in other avenues.
Well, let's ask Mario about that. What do you think, Mario?
Yeah, JT hit on the head. He's absolutely correct. There are going to be obstacles with regards to what we would assume to be the most valuable NFTs, right? Them in their uniform making a play, a video. Right now the proposed rules do not allow them to use the school's trademarks and licenses, right? And so right now they actually. Right now, a student athlete can post a picture or a video in their uniform. As the rules are written today, right, the proposed rules, they could not post a picture with the school's marks on it. And so, that's something I think we'll have to address, because I think that's going to be problematic. But JT's absolutely right. There are other people's, like JT said, there's other people's money. When it comes to NFTs, and schools aren't going to let that go easily, right? And so, but they'll be able to do NFTs, right? But they won't be, again, the ones we think that are probably the most valuable.
Oh, I do have a quick question though for Mario, because I just thought about this. It's the TV commercial of whoever number 20 is for Notre Dame, running through all the things, and you can it's clearly a Notre Dame player. Now, whether or not at the beginning of the commercial, whether or not it's a real Notre Dame player, you have no idea. He doesn't have a name on the back. I'm not familiar with all the Notre Dame players, but I know he's number 20. And at first, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, no big deal, because they could have just got any kind of actor to do this. But then it transitioned into the end of a play. So he runs through the doctor's office or whatever, the surgery room, and then they show a clip of him running into the end zone, and then it clicks. It's like, oh yeah, this is a real Notre Dame player. How does something like that then get handled? Is that the sole at the sole discretion of the university? Mm-hmm. And I mean, even just player aside, like, do you have to negotiate with, I guess, NBC or whoever it was that broadcast the game in order to use those kind of clips?
Yeah. So two different things there. One, it is a former Notre Dame student athlete. And two, Notre Dame owns all the rights to the NBC broadcast, so we can do that. You would have issues otherwise. You're right. You're on it. And so we're able to do that because we have the freedom to do that. But it is a former student athlete, which takes it out of any of these complications that we have right now with name, image, and likeness.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, that's great conversation. I wanted to switch a little bit because we have a lot of Alabama fans on here listening as well, and I would probably get chewed out if I didn't at least talk to you about the national championship game and some of the highlights and thoughts that you may have about that game. I mean, we totally, I talk to Lamar Thomas every now and again. He just sent me a DM the other day, said, come on, let's go ahead and make this money kind of thing. He wants me to do something. But, man, what do you remember the most, man? What do you take from that game, the highlight that you could share with everyone?
I mean, come on, man. I mean, the best play that everybody saw was you running down Lamar and taking that ball away, right? You saved the touchdown. I mean, we were offside, so the play didn't really count, but it counted because you took the ball from him and stopped him from going and scoring a touchdown. And I think that really just deflated them, right? And, all during that week, it's just, we were all business. And, we knew it. We just had that quiet confidence and, we were just going to go out there and take care of business. And, once we started making plays and, you started putting the hammer down and, it's our offense, showed up and, we're always a little bit suspect during the year. So we're always hoping, but they showed up in that game and, you just feel the momentum. You had big bad Miami, you had Alabama in their suits. And, but once we got on the field, we were like, hey, these are just regular guys. Right. And so, let's just go out here and play. And so I remember the whole thing. It's just obviously great memories. And again, just watching you just, take over the game was pretty phenomenal.
Well, I appreciate that. I wasn't asking that though, but I do appreciate that. But what about the locker room after the game? Because can you tell everybody about how that felt to be in there afterwards? I couldn't really get in there. I was dehydrated and it was too hot in there and all that kind of stuff. What was that like post game?
To be honest, George, I actually injured my knee in the game, but didn't really know it until after the game. And I was walking back into the locker room and I just felt this twinge in my knee and I ended up it tore my meniscus. But it was a blur to me, to be honest with you. I actually can't really remember a whole lot of it. From the field, I remember us winning. I remember us going onto the field, and then I remember just walking back to the hotel, to be honest with you. It was such a blur, the emotions and the euphoria. It sort of felt like you were in, sort of in another world. And it's hard to explain, but, the locker room, I mean, I remember walking in there and, again, it's a blur to me. I remember walking back to the hotel, but that's about it.
Yeah, me too, because there's a great Daniel Moore picture of everyone in there, with their shirts off and hiding around Gene Stallings and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think I'm in that photo. Well, I know I'm not in that photo. It got me kind of put into the corner of the thing. But, man, it was hot up in there, boy. I was like a fool up in there.
It was a long walk. I remember being just a long walk back to the locker room, right? That locker room was pretty far away. I remember us coming out of the tunnel. It was like, man, is this ever going to end? This is a long way to the field.
Well, there was nothing like how loud those fans were that night, and you know, when we jumped on them early. I mean, it was early. It was just they didn't have a chance. You know.
Yeah, you saw the fear in Toretta's face, and you know, I love just lining up across from him and him looking up and seeing everybody on the line, and him just, you know, time out. You know, I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I know. So. Well, I knew once he fell on his behind, you know, took the snap and fell down. That was it. At that point, that's when you know he just, you know, killer instinct comes out after that. So, okay. Before we go to the next segment, I want to see can you tell us a little bit about how you went down this path to become an athletic director? I think some people might want to know that. Definitely, you know, aspire to be in a position.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. You know, after I left Alabama, went up to Green Bay and hung out with you, Consuela, and everybody for a little while, and started working in financial services. You know, a few months later, and moved to Nashville, worked in financial services, and you know, and then my mom passed away, and I you know, I always wanted to, you know, get an advanced degree, and ended up going to law school at Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, and really enjoyed it. But I knew going through that experience and working for some firms throughout the summer that I didn't want to practice in a traditional courtroom. And so I went back into financial services, and then the recession happened, you know, in 2008. And so that really, for me, sort of, you know, it gave me an opportunity to sort of reset and say, what do you really want to do? You might want to use this law degree. It was pretty expensive. And so I went back to Madison and was worked for a little small firm there, and ran into one of our former teammates, Sean Frazier, who's the athletic director at Northern Illinois. He was the deputy athletic director at Wisconsin, and he asked me to come over and, you know, just sort of take a look. And let me back up for a second. The way we hooked up was we hooked up on a listserv. So Nick Saban had asked Thad Turnipseed to create a listserv for the former student athletes, former football players. And Sean and I hooked up over that listserv, and he found out I was in Madison. And so anyway, brought me over to the athletic department, and I met a few people over there, and I, you know, offered to volunteer to help the CFO and with some budgeting. And about 9 months later, they offered me a job to be the budget director, and just sort of worked my way up from there. You know, had an opportunity to create some program called Beyond the Game, which helped our student athletes focus on their non-student athlete identity and focusing on those things that would help them after they finished. And just sort of fell in love with it, right? I had my finance degree, my law degree, and, you know, the passion for helping student athletes, and, you know, just, you know, kept getting promoted there and became the chief financial officer back in 2014, 15. And, you know, and did a lot of great things over there. And then Notre Dame came calling in 2019. So I've been over here a little over 2 years as deputy athletic director, and, you know, oversee a lot of stuff, and, you know, still really enjoy the connection with the student athletes and watching them and helping them. You know, look, we look back at our journey, right? You know, just kids from Alabama, and, you know, going to college sort of changed our lives, right? And changed the trajectory of our lives. And so I look at that, and being able to work for an organization that provides those opportunities, you know, is very fulfilling to me. And so that's, you know, how I got here, and sort of why I'll be here. I love it.
Man, that's awesome. Well, and we're very proud of you. Our family is very proud of you, and, you know, and we're just glad everything is going well. And Mario is also a very proud dad. Has a 7-month-old,
7 week.
7 week. Oh yeah, sorry. I was looking at JT and I was thinking months, and he's 7-week-old son, man. So congratulations to that. Mario's going to hang out with us for the remainder of the show as well. And we got to talk about these pitchers, man. Are they cheating? How are we getting so many no-hitters? But first, let's pay a bill or two.
ProfoundSites.com. for your personal and commercial needs. Websites built, repaired, secured, maintained, and found. Brent Thomas and ProfoundSites.com provide e-commerce development, website development, online marketing, web, mobile, and e-commerce consulting. With over 10 years experience, Profound Sites is responsible for creating GeorgeTeague.com, where you can hear Teague's Take with George Teague every week. Brent Thomas and Profound Sites can take you through the entire pain-free process of building your new website. From initial discussion to planning, design, to coding and making your site live and discoverable on the internet. Contact Brent Thomas at ProfoundSites.com or email him at brent@ProfoundSites.com.
Well, welcome back to Teague's Take. Man, thank you all for joining in on the live show. If you are one of the many that have downloaded this show, whether it's off of YouTube, Facebook, or any of those podcast channels, we want to say thank you for that. Continue to subscribe and get the alerts as we drop these shows every single week. We know that we do have some listeners right now that we'd like to give some shout outs to. Jay Consuela.
Well, first of all, I really just wanted to get a shout out from you, from George, and for James, to Jada, our daughter, for just graduating at UTSA in her communications degree. And also we have a high school niece that's graduating today, Lauren Bass. Just wanted to give shout outs to those two young ladies.
Yes, sir. That is awesome. I am glad that, unfortunately we had to miss Lauren's graduation today. I think she's going on to Tuskegee. Is that right?
Tuskegee.
That's right. So I need to make sure we post on that as well. So let's go to the part that everyone is really here to listen to. We call this the Money Matters segment, led by JT. Take it away, sir.
So we've had a rise, very meteoric rise, I'd say, in no-hitters. In baseball this season, they've already gotten to 6, which is the amount of the total of no-hitters that they had last season, and we're only in May. I don't remember all the numbers because there were a lot of years and whatnot, but I think the most in a season is like 8. And that was like in 1884 or something like that. And another one was in the early 1900s with 7 or something like that. So it's been, I guess, over 100 years since something like this was thought of. So, you start to, and batters, I guess, start to wonder kind of what's really going on if you've got some kind of outlier like this from 100 years where, the science behind hitting balls and throwing them and all that kind of stuff wasn't there yet. That in the 1800s, they didn't have the technology, analytics, and all the other things to figure out how to be efficient. So, most people are thinking that, it's just pitchers becoming a little bit better, right? They know how to manipulate the ball a little bit more. The average pitch speed has gone up. Like if you can't throw in the triple digits or high 90s, you might as well just kind of hang it up as being a MLB pitcher anymore, unless you're that one dude that like throws 50 miles an hour and just like it's weird. But so most of it can be explained with the batters, how they had their trend on like launch angle or
amount of home runs.
Yeah, they're just trying to go yard as often as possible. And now, pitchers are throwing faster. They've got a little bit more movement on their pitches. They've got their own science, and hitters can't keep up right now. So the real question, there's 2. One of them is not so serious. Are pitchers cheating? And the other one is, are these no-hitters actually good for baseball?
Okay. Well, we'll bring everyone back because I am going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say, I know my baseball community get mad at me, but if they ain't cheating in baseball, I don't know what's going on. They've been cheating in baseball forever. Somebody been doing it, whether it was the bat or signals, cameras, pictures, something. Heck yeah, they cheating, man. I don't know what they doing. Ain't nobody figured that out yet, but there's some cheating going on. I promise you that. Yeah, it'll catch up to them.
Will it? The Astros still have their world championship. Will it?
Well, or maybe I should say they'll get busted. Now, whether or not they get penalized. Or
So I'll say
something
this
for it.
for the gentleman that we saw before the show when he was saying, somebody's going to be in serious trouble if they get caught cheating. Case in point, Astros, they got caught cheating. Nothing happened. So
Absolutely
probably
nothing.
Well, Tom Brady didn't get in trouble either when he
Absolutely did.
flattened the footballs to throw it better or whatever it was. So, I don't know. I think there's a couple things into that. Yeah, I do. We talked about it on another show, the way that they're producing the balls, what they're doing with the inside of the ball.
And the laces, you were right about they've changed the laces.
The laces to make it, I don't know if it's going faster or not, but you definitely can have more control over it. I bet some people will take a scapegoat and say, well, is this just a pandemic year, the COVID year, and people didn't prepare well, and
they played baseball.
all kind of things are
last year.
happening, during this year. I bet, and I don't know if there's different things that you could do to help a pitcher throw, as far as arm strength and getting recovered.
Well, they're saying that the pitchers are actually throwing less. They are
Being
pitchers
more
are
efficient.
yeah they're not going a full 9 innings anymore. So they basically they might give you 5 of their high speed pitches, and then they come in. They got a reliever that might stick around for a couple batters, and they'll bring in somebody else that's just going to be throwing 100-mile-an-hour.
Well, before we get to Mario, I want to ask Consuela, because Consuela's always on these channels with the conspiracies and all going on. Is there anything that's going on out there in the baseball world that we need to know about, babe? They got little chips in the ball, or what they got? Someone actually controlling it with a remote?
Wouldn't that be something?
What's going on? What do you got for us, Consuela? Anything?
Nothing on that. Nothing on that.
Well, Mario, I know you're not necessarily the biggest baseball fan in the world, but what do you think about, Jay, it's been 100 years, man, and people were throwing these no-hitters. Like
George,
this.
I was actually thinking along the lines of what you ended on, was that, there may be something to the pitchers not having to throw as much last year, and maybe the pitchers get more out of the rest than the batters do, right? And so maybe, basically they, had a year where they didn't pitch as much. They didn't have as many games. And so maybe they just put them at an advantage, starting off the season. That's really the only thing I could think of besides cheating.
Well, I had this because I did read.
That's it.
I don't know if I read it or if I was watching a video or whatever, but they were talking about like how pitchers prepare for batters, and they were basically saying that batters are kind of they're helpless in the sense of, like how we do scouting reports and you say, hey, this guy doesn't do this well, this guy doesn't do this well. Well, batters can study pitchers and say, okay, he throws, he might have a tip, he might do this. These are his strongest pitches, these are his weakest pitches. But they were basically saying, like, look, dude, if the batter has a hole in his swing and he just can't, for whatever reason, cannot hit these pitches, it's very easy for the pitcher just to throw those, and you can't, and the batter is out of luck. Like, if he doesn't have the ability to do it, then...
Well, and you're probably right. So at the Star, this facility we have out here, not that place where the Cowboys particularly practice at, but at the Sports Academy. Give them a little plug right there. They have this software that they introduced us to this year that they're actually bringing down to high school, where there's basically computer simulators for pitching, hitting, where they can actually take the real film, put it in this device, and then allow you to get these reps over and over and over and over and over again mentally. And maybe this is something that we don't necessarily talk about at the major league level that they're probably utilizing, similar to what you're saying, that they can actually see, hey, this guy does not swing well here, the same way they're looking at trying to get tips on the pitchers, that, maybe there's just technology now that you're able to see everything and figure out people's weaknesses, and they're exploiting them. And I don't know if that's good for baseball. That was your next part. Is this good for the sport? I don't think so. I think people want to see action. I don't think everyone just wants to see home runs. I don't think everyone wants to see a 0-0, but they want to see some people throwing out, some bases run, some diving catches and things of that nature. Mario, what do you think about that? Do people?
Yeah,
really
this would be, a similar argument to the old 9-6 Alabama LSU game, right? Nobody wants to see defense all day. People want to see action. So I would agree with that. I don't think it's healthy if it continues at this rate.
Consuelo, you got an opinion on that?
None whatsoever.
It seems like baseball's in a pickle, right? Because they tried to nerf the ball so that you can't hit it out of the park as easily, and now they just can't hit it at all.
Did y'all hear JT play on words there? He always does it. Caught in a pickle. Did y'all hear that? That was a whole little baseball.
No, that was unintentional. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
You know what I'm saying? He got that written down over there. That's
don't.
pretty cool.
But that was pretty good.
That was pretty good. Speaking of being pretty good, 3R Sports Graphics, founded in 2018 by Tyler Sanders, provides affordable graphic content tailored for your individual goals to promote high school and college programs. Hey, they do represent many TAP schools, including Parish Episcopal, Liberty Christian, Fort Worth Christian. They can go on. They got, 30, 40, 50 schools in the state of Texas, but then they also go outside of the state as well. If you work with 3R Sports Graphics, you'll deal with a designer from the 3R Sports team, from the initial project to the delivery of the final project. 3R Sports Graphics, they're here to help you with your social media graphics. I personally use them for our graphics with Teague's Take. Please visit their website, 3rsportsgraphics.com. You can email Tyler Sanders at tsanders2405@gmail.com or follow them on Twitter at 3R Sports Graphics 1. That's at 3R Sports and the number 1. Sorry, 3R Sports 1. All right, guys, let's get to the final play now. And I almost have to give another monologue here because, as a head football coach in high school here at John Paul II High School in Plano, Texas, a lot of different things are coming up that I have to deal with as a head coach. I'm finding players are starting to have to move around a little bit. They're transferring from high school to high school. There are certain areas that have what's the term? Not whether you don't have to. There's no zoning. Help me with the word, JT. It's free choice basically of schools. So like if you live in Garland, you can pick whichever high school you want to go to, so they can jump around between school and school. There are some powerhouse schools here in Texas that you can come from anywhere. It's almost like private school. They have these charter titles on them, and you can get there. So guys are moving around a little bit, and that is kind of difficult to handle when you don't necessarily know who's going to be on your team if they get mad, upset, looking for a different opportunity to play. So it makes it tough to kind of plan. Well, just recently, just happened to see this. There's a football player who opted out of, said he's not going to play his senior year in high school, not because he was just tired of the sport, but he has over 30-something offers, all Power 5 type of stuff. And he's a Texas commit, and he says, hey, I'm not going to play this year because I want to rest my body. I want to be fully prepared for college. And, man, I am so worried about that as well. I've personally been hit in my school with the amount of guys that have transferred out to go back to public school or something else. I'll actually tell you this. I don't know if you paid attention to it. JT always looking at my little notes that I have up on the screen here. But in the 4 years, JT, did you know this, or Consuelo? In the 4 years that I've been at JP2, we've had 24 kids that have transferred out. in
Wow.
4 years to go to other
Wow.
places. Now that I don't know, that's a lot of kids, right? And people say, "Well, what are you doing, Coach?" It's not even necessarily that we're doing anything wrong. Just people are moving around and going to
It's the new tradition now. This
schools.
is what they, I mean, even from the top, from you see in the NFL level, they're saying, I no longer want to be here, so switch me out, trade me. It's like a new thing now.
Yeah, and it's maybe easier in the high school. And I guess what I want to present to you guys is with this now, with the opt out. We saw so much of it with COVID, right? And players not doing it in college decide not to play so they can go to the pros, or in the pros and not playing that year. Is this this is only one that I know of in high school, but could this potentially be a new trend that's going to hit the high school world where these 4-star guys who are committed and locked in are not going to play their senior year? I want to go to Mario first.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, as you were talking, I was actually just thinking about, back to sort of when we were playing, and could I have made that decision? And I think you're going to have, I think most of you guys are going to want to play with their guys their senior year, right? They're just going to want to go out there and compete. I think if guys see that, hey, this season might not be very good for me here, right? If the team's not very good, and they have these offers, or actually have the scholarship, I think you could see a rise in this. I don't think this will be, just one event. I think you probably will see some of the top kids in high schools, sitting out, or at the very least shutting it down, right? If the season starts off, and it just gets progressively worse, I think you could see that. And I would worry about it as well.
Well, JT, do you think that is it better for the kid to be able to have that kind of option and really just say, similar to what he's saying, that hey, the team's not going to be very good, I can freshen up, rehab, train, do all that kind of stuff? Is it good for high school sports?
Is it good for high school sports in general? Probably not. I think there is some benefit to it, knowing that there are some kids that get hurt and then scholarship gets pulled, or they get asked to gray shirt or blue shirt or whatever and say, hey, can you just not show up for a semester and things like that. So I think that's part of it. So, my first thought when I saw the article that you sent me was, don't hate the player, hate the game. Mm-hmm. The system allows this. The system incentivizes this from both sides of, you run the risk of getting hurt. And if you get hurt, a school is liable to pull the scholarship for any reason. They might pull the scholarship even if you're not hurt. You might have been in between two guys, and we talk about those non-committable offers and things like that. So a lot of people don't want to really look at like how the I guess soccer model works with youth, but essentially they just don't tie it to schools. You join a club that is sponsored by a larger team. So essentially, you take somebody like Alabama, and they would have academies and whatnot, and they could sign players on, and that's how they actually get to keep guys around. You don't get to just leave your academy unless you want to give up your wage. They pay you a little bit and things like that, which we can't pull off. But the point is, we have a system that allows and incentivizes people to be healthy and to be fresh and to.
Well, so Mario, do you think this will lead to, and maybe you can tell us the trends, to more early enrollment? Because that's starting to pick up now. And if you got people opting out, then they might as well go ahead and finish to get their degree, head to college. What is that going to look like?
Man, I think back to when we were in college. We think a lot alike, because I was thinking the exact same thing. I think you've seen the trend increase for early enrollment. And I think you absolutely would see, and I could actually see the case, I listened to JT, and, if you're going to be an early enrollee and you're going to enroll in January, I actually could see a case for you maybe not wanting to get injured, right? I mean, so I absolutely think that, students are, trying to get to school earlier so they can compete. They know that if they get that spring practice in, they have a better chance of playing their freshman year. And so I think you'll see that trend continue, as students start to try to get into school early.
Consuela, what we just did? We just came full circle. And that's why we're so good on Teague's Take. If y'all haven't figured out what just happened here, because this all goes back. If you sit out those years or that year, you can start working on your name, your image, your likeness, get your podcast up, start getting all your stuff going so that you already have your product developed when you show up early. Man, what do you think about that, Consuela?
I think that's fantastic.
I think that's how we do it on this show, man. Mario, man, we love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us. Sorry you didn't get to see Jada. She's off in Alabama right now, spending some time with the family there, as we said, for the graduation.
Yeah. Hey, I love you guys very much. You mean so much to me. Meant so much to me throughout college and, getting me kickstarted, in my career and just love, have, caught back up with you, George, and the family over the years. And, really proud of you guys and really love the show. And so keep up the great work.
Hey, you know what? When you get ready, when y'all open up that new marketing department, and you need some of your players to learn how to do podcasts and things like that, why don't you hit us up and just go ahead and bring the Teague family in so we can show some of those Notre Dame boys.
Now you're going to be our consultant.
Yeah, what to do, man. Thanks again for everything. Thank you, Consuela and JT. We are now about to wrap this up. We're not going to be on next week, so don't tune in then. We're going to skip a week, hitting the summer months. Next one will be June 8th. We got Dwight Hollier on. Played with him at Miami. He's a linebacker. Man, he's very involved with the NFLPA and things of that nature, so we are really looking forward to him being on. Make sure you visit teagstake.com. Get some memorabilia. We thank you so much. Download it, the podcast. Hit the like button. Subscribe.
Leave 5-star reviews, otherwise we'll consider you a hater.
Yes, sir. We don't like haters. No haters allowed. With that, we say later on, he can't hit a camera to save
that's not true. The last time I was in here,
life,
I hit it.
man. They even gave you a bigger camera, man.
I need more cameras.
Yeah, peace out, man. Subscribe to our feed at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening now. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Teague's Take Podcast. Remember to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the stream. Stay engaged by following us on Instagram and Twitter at Teague's Take, where you can keep up to date with news postings and other live content.